Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and in this tutorial I am going to tell you what are the classes and objects in Python. So without further ado, let's get into it. So as you already know that Python is a OOP, which is a object oriented language. So almost everything in Python is an object with the properties and methods. So a class is nothing but a object constructor or a blueprint for creating the objects. So now we will discuss how to create a class. So for creating a class, we have to use the keyword class. So in this example, we have created one class named this class, which has one property named x, which stores the value 50. So let me show you how to create a class in Python. This is a Python command line, and for creating a class, as we have already discussed, type the word class and give some class name. So in this case, we will give class name as my class, and we need to give the colon. After hitting enter, we are into our class named my class. So give the indentation and we will create one property. So in this case, we will create one property like x and we will assign some value to it, 50. Let's consider. After hitting enter, as you can see, our class has been created, and now we will discuss how to create an object. So for creating an object, so we can use the class named this class for creating the object. So in this example, we have used already created class for creating the object named p1. Let me show you how to do that. So we have already created our class. So for creating the object, we just have to give the object name. So in this case, we will give like o1 equal to and our class, which is a my class. Give the round brackets and hit enter. So our object has been created. So let me print the result here. So we will use the print function, print in brackets o1 dot x. After hitting enter, as you can see, the value of x has been printed. This is how you create class and objects in Python. So this was very introductory part of what is a class and objects in Python. So let me discuss in details in a bit. So the next topic is init function. So the examples that we have seen earlier were the very simple form and not really useful in the real applications. So for understanding the meaning of classes, we have to understand what is a init function in Python. So the all classes have a function called as a init function, which always executes when the class is being initiated. So we use the init function for assigning the values to object properties or other operations that are necessary to do when the object is being created. So as you can see in this example, we have created one class named student and we have used the init function for assigning the value for name and grade, and we have executed it whenever the class is being initiated. So we have used the init function for assigning the values to the object properties and other operations which are necessary for doing when the object is being created. Let me show you how to use init function with some simple example. So for this example, we will create one class named customer. Give the colon, hit enter. And now after giving indentation, we will use the init function to assign the values to the object properties. So just give the init function. We have to use the def keyword, which we use to define a function. So give init and in bracket, we will give the objects. So in this case, we will give like self, which is the first object, give the name of the customer and the customer ID. After giving colon, hit enter. Just don't forget to give the indentation. As you can see, we are in our init function. So we will assign like self dot name equals to the name of the customer, and self dot cust ID will be equal to the customer ID of the customer. As you can see, we have created one class named customer and we have used the init function to assign the values for name and cust ID. Hit enter, and now let me pass the values to our person class. So P1, which will be our object, give customer and pass the values for the name and customer ID, Adam, and the customer ID will be 55. And finally, let me print the name and the customer ID of a customer one by one by using the print function. Print object name, which is p1 dot name. After hitting enter, as you can see, we are getting the name of the customer, and similarly print the cust ID 55. So I hope you understood why we are using the init function and how to define it with this simple example. Our next topic is object methods. So the object can also contain the methods. The methods in object are function that belongs to the object. So here you can see in this example, we have created a method in the student class. In this, we have inserted a function that prints a greeting and execute it on the P1 object. So for this example, we will again create a customer class that we have discussed in the previous example, and we will use the init function for assigning the values to the object properties. So as you can see in this example, we have created class customer and we have used the init function to assign the values for name and customer ID, as you have seen in the previous example. So now our next step will be defining one function that prints a greeting and execute it on the object. And now inside our class, we will create one function. So a function named this function, and we'll pass self inside it. After hitting enter, as you can see inside this function, we will print our greetings. So print in bracket, our string is my name is, and we will add the name here. So self dot name. After hitting enter, and now we will pass the values for name and customer ID in our customer class. So in this case, we will use P1 object equal to customer, and in bracket give the values for name and customer ID. So the name will be John and the customer ID will be 10. Hit enter, and now we will call our function. So P1, which is an object dot function. So the function name is this function, round brackets. After hitting enter, as you can see, it is printing the greeting that we have passed, which is a my name is, and after this it is printing the customer name which we have passed into our object. So I hope you got the clear understanding what are the classes and objects in Python and how to create them with some simple examples. We have also seen what is a init function and what are the object methods in Python. So in the next lecture, we are going to see how to modify and delete the objects as well as the pass statement. So I hope you like my video, so please subscribe to my channel and ring the notification bell to get the latest updates.